Hello BookTube, this is part 21 of my 2022 library tour. Today I'm continuing on with my history shelves. This is part 9 of history. Only a few more shelves left before I move on to science fiction and fantasy. This shelf and the next ones are going to be recent book hauls. This particular bookcase, what I call History 2, I've organized in the order in which I've picked them up. So this part of the tour will be history books I picked up from September to November of last year. So let's get started. The first book I have is The Chancellor, The Remarkable Odyssey of Angela Merkel by Katie Martin. This is a biography of Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany from 2005 to 2021. The first female Chancellor of Germany, who has been for a number of years the most powerful woman in the world, and the leader of the free world. So, looking forward to getting to it. Next is The Ottomans, Khans, Caesars, and Caliphs by Mark David Baer. This is a history of the Ottomans, who I'm quite interested in, and I'm looking forward to reading it. Of course, I think only one book, I've only read one book on this shelf so far. Next is South to Freedom, Runaway Slaves to Mexico and the Road to the Civil War by Ellis L. Baumgartner. This is, so normally when we think about runaway slaves and their flight to freedom, we normally think about the Underground Railroad and a flight north to Canada. This book looks in the other direction of runaway slaves from more southern slave states who fled to Mexico before the Civil War. Mexico was also a free country. It was had banned slavery, and I think the 1820s or very early 1830s. One of the reasons why the American settlers in Texas rebelled against Mexico. So this South to Freedom won the, I don't remember the exact prize. I think it's like the California Prize or something for history. It's put out by the Commonwealth Club of California. And I read I watched the presentation ceremony a few months ago, and I've been having my eye on this book for a while, and that kind of heightened me wanting to get it. So yeah, haven't gotten to it yet, but I hope to shortly. Next is Strongmen, Mussolini to the Present by Ruth Ben-Ghiat. This is a look at various dictators from Benito Mussolini to the present. Haven't gotten to yet. Next is Hadrian, the Restless Emperor by Anthony R. Burley. This is the biography of Hadrian. I haven't gotten to yet, and I picked it up from Midtown Book Scholar, or maybe even Majors and Quinn, one of the two. Because what I've been doing the past few months is I will ask my tablet to pick a random number and then go to my Libris wish list, which has the books numbered, and I'll order a book from the wish list that way, and this was one of those books. And Hadrian is a very interesting emperor. Next is the only book I've read on this shelf, and that is The Other Americans in Paris, Businessmen, Countesses, Wayward Youth, 1880 to 1941 by Nancy L. Green. This is a history of the Americans in Paris who were not artists and writers. the businessmen, the people looking for jobs, diplomats, that sort of thing. And it's very fascinating. I really enjoyed the book. Next is a work of African history. This is A Fistful of Shells, West Africa from the Rise of the Slave Trade to the Age of Revolution by Toby Green. So this is a more recent history of Africa. And it's put out by the University of Chicago Press, and I picked it up from one of their cells, which is still ongoing. And I haven't gotten to it yet, obviously. Next is The Impeachers, This Trial of Andrew Johnson and the Dream of a Just Nation by Brenda Wineapple. This is about the impeachment of Andrew Johnson, Lincoln's vice president, who succeeded him as president and who was thoroughly reprehensible. Haven't gotten to it yet. I've been meaning to, but yeah, life gets in the way. Next is a biography of Andrew Jackson. This is Andrew Jackson, His Life and Times by H.W. Brands. Andrew Jackson was a thoroughly disgusting president. Anyway, I think I tried to get into that one a few years ago when I checked out from my local library. So, kind of want to get to it at some point. Next, moving on from American history and to Portugal, this is The Braganças, The Rise and Fall of the Ruling Dynasties of Portugal and Brazil, 1640 to 1910 by Malin Newitt. This is history of the Braganças, who were Portugal and Brazil's ruling dynasty, obviously from the Portuguese War of Independence, from union with Spain in 1640 to the dissolution of the Portuguese monarchy in 1910. Next is A Generation Divided, The New Left, The New Right in the 1960s by Rebecca E. Klotch. This is a history of the 60s and student radicalism on both sides of the political spectrum, which is a subject I'm quite interested in. And I think I picked both of those two up from Midtown Scholar a few months ago. Next is another book from the University of Chicago Press and one of my most recent order with them. This is The Making of a King, Antigonus Gonatas of Macedon and the Greeks by Robin Waterfield. Antigonus Gonatas was the founder of the Antigonid Kingdom of Macedonia that sort of replaced decades worth of conflict in the aftermath of the fall of the... I'm blanking on what the dynasty Alexander came from. I'm blanking on their name. So, I mean, after Alexander's death, his son and his half-brother succeeded him. And then conflict between Alexander's various generals for satrapies, and then later to form their own kingdoms, if not to take the whole of the empire for themselves. So Macedonia, eventually Alexander's brother was assassinated by Alexander's mother, and later the son of one of Alexander's generals essentially killed Alexander's son and wife, and eventually also tracked down a supposed other son of Alexander's to temporarily become king of Macedonia, and then he himself was, or if not him, no, it was his sons, were manipulated into killing each other by a son of Ptolemy or something, and then it's a mess. But eventually Antigonus Gonatas became king of Macedonia and founded the Antigonid dynasty, which lasted until Rome came in and conquered Macedon. Next is Queer Legacies, Stories from Chicago's LGBTQ Archives by John D'Amelio, which I'm looking forward to getting to. Very slim book. And then I have another history of, I think, South Asia. This is Waves Across the South, A New History of Revolution and Empire by Sujit Sivasundaram, which I picked up from the University of Chicago Press at one of their cells. And this is Miracles of Our Own Making, A History of Paganism by Liz Williams, which, while I could have picked up from the University of Chicago Press, I actually pre-ordered this from Amazon, I think. Or did I? Once I finish this up, I'm going to go check the catalog and see if, but I want to say I picked it up from Amazon. So, next is Our First Civil War, Patriots and Loyalists in the American Revolution by H.W. Brands. This is a history of the American Revolution as told from the point of view of the divide between the Patriots, those who sought to become independent from Britain, and those who wished to remain loyal, who were in the majority. Next is The Greeks, A Global History by Roderick Beaton. This is a history of the Greeks from their earliest days to the present by the writer of Greece Biography of a Modern Nation, which I loved, and one of the reasons why I picked this up. Also that I really do enjoy the Greeks. Next is another book I've been looking forward to getting to, and one of the books that I'm most happy to add to my collection from last year. This is American Comics, A History by Jeremy Dauber. This is a big history of American comics, not only the comic strips that appear or used to appear in local newspapers, but also comic books. I'm really looking forward to getting to this comic books. One of my favorite, and comics in general, or one of my favorite subjects to read about, historically speaking. I also would love to get a big history of video games, which I don't know if any have come out yet or not. So next is India's War, World War II, and the Making of Modern South Asia by Srinath Raghavan. Don't quite remember where I picked this up from. Might have been Friends at the Library, like the Phoenix Friends at the Library or something, I think. Or Majors and Quinn. And last on this shelf, Empires of the Indus, The Story of a River by Ellis Albania, which I picked up from either Hippo or Owls or one of them, which is a nice cover copy. And let me check and see. That's the most recent, the new big book, so. Okay, yeah, I picked it up from Amazon because the version of Miracles of Our Own Making in this catalog would be the cloth. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, this is the reading catalog from the University of Chicago Press. I get a huge amount of catalogs from them. They have sales on almost all the time. But anyway, I'll talk a bit about that in a future haul video, because there's the big one that's ongoing. There's also one from Princeton that I'm going to hop on too. So anyway, BookTube, that concludes part 21 of my 2022 library tour. I will be back in a few moments with a book tag for a Tag Tuesday, and I will of course be back tomorrow with part 22 of my 2022 library tour. Continuing on with history, there are now only 2 shelves of history left, and yeah, they're going to be fun. Although I haven't read any of them yet, so BookTube until then, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.